Hi, my name is Yuliya, and I'm an Android developer at Jet.com. For those of you who do not know, Jet.com is an e-commerce company based in New York. And right before Google I/O, around May, we released our first multi-feature instant app, and it was a huge success. So today we'd love to share with you what we have done, what we have built, what we've gained, why we did it, and about all the failures and probably inconsistencies that we ran into. But before we actually, and it will be a really heavy tech talk, so we actually walk through the steps how to build instant apps. But before we actually do this, let's talk about why we need instant apps and why this project generally evolved. So let's take a step back and talk about mobile evolution. You probably remember those first built-in applications in black and white, like a snake game calculator, no animation, pretty boring, but still they were our first applications. Then we stepped into the era of mobile web, right? And mobile web opened up a lot of opportunities for us to browse the internet and search for the information we needed. But the experience was still painful. Why? Because images didn't render correctly, the text got cut off sometimes, so it wasn't the best experience to use on mobile devices. Then we stepped into the era of the so-called optimized mobile web pages. Most of the features that currently are supported on web applications, like on desktops, are being supported on mobile, right? And pretty much simultaneously, we started to enjoy our store applications or native applications. And we love Google Play, right? There is an app for almost every use case in our life. So we get a new device, we install an app, we keep installing the app until we run into a space issue, right? How often did it happen to you when you're in the middle of a very important process, you started to install the application, it's kind of like the halfway, and then the system tells you, hey, just stop because there is not enough memory. So this is where instant apps come into the play. So the instant app is a type of the application that does not require installation. So let's actually see how instant apps work in real life. So you can see a Jet.com application on my launcher screen, right? So I don't need it anymore, right? I am uninstalling my Jet application from the launcher. And then I'm opening Chrome, and I need a new camera. So I'm typing Jet camera in my Chrome browser, and then I can see a list of links. And next to the links, you can see instant gray text. You probably see on the first two links. So once I click on this link with a gray text instant, you can see that instant app is being downloaded on the fly onto the device. And it was like less than a few seconds, and the truly native application is on your device, right? Isn't it amazing? Like, you didn't have to go to the Google Play Store. You didn't have to wait for like 10 seconds to install the application. Everything has been done in less than a few seconds, right? So seamless, so fast, and so performant. So when we think about instant apps, try to think about it as a new type of the application that absorbs the benefits of both worlds. So it takes the best part from the mobile web, such as uninstallation, right? Like uninstallation character. You don't need to install an application. And space-friendly character. But it's truly native application with its material design and navigation that most of our users are so accustomed to. So, okay, we as developers like the idea of instant apps, but does it really mean that we have to create a new application, which is instant application, and then support both our installable and instant app? Fortunately, no. So, instant app is actually shares the same code base as your regular installable application. So you don't need to worry about creating a separate application and supporting it. Instant app is a multi-module project. And it's very important because I feel like most applications currently Google Play Store are one app module. So you have one app module, most of your code lives there, and this is how most applications basically structured. So in instant apps, it's an anti-pattern. If you want to build your instant app, you have to break your application into multiple modules. And we'll definitely talk about how to do that, so don't worry about that part. But as you've seen from the example, right, I mean from the demo, instant app is a super quick and fast experience, right? It's being downloaded on the fly. So there are some constraints that we have to meet in order to build our instant app. And one of the constraints is a size constraint. So 4 megabyte size limit per module. I know probably most Android developers is like, oh, Yuliya, please, my application is like 20 megabytes, 30 megabytes, 40 megabytes. You're talking about 4 megabytes, right? So it's a luxury for us because because most our applications are larger than 20 megabytes. And this is actually the situation where my team was when we adopted Instant Apps and started to work on that. Our application was over 17 megabyte size limit, and we're like, no, we're not gonna slim it down to 4 megabyte size limit. But actually, as we started to work and basically come up with different approaches and ways to slim it down, we were able to reach it, to reach this size constraint. So our current instant application is a little bit less than 4 megabyte size limit. And again, I will definitely share some practical tips on how you will be able to do this. Currently, Instant App is being supported on the API level 23 and above. Google is working to support Instant Apps on the API levels lower than 23. So let's see how further or older they will go. And one of the specificity of Instant App is that it's URL responsive. So in order to start an Instant App, you have to click on a URL address. So as you've seen from the demo, right, I opened a Google Chrome and I clicked on the URL address. So one of the questions that most people ask me is, okay, so I build an Instant App, how do I embed it into Chrome browser, right? So that's why I decided to basically take a step back and explain to you how Instant App works. So you don't really need to tie your Instant App with your browser in any possible way. So imagine you created an Instant App URL address, which is https://jet.com. So when you click on this URL address, what happens is that this URL address is being sent to the Google Play Store, right? And then Google Play Store is trying to find a matching Instant App APK. And if it finds a matching Instant App APK, then this APK is being downloaded on the device, and the user can enjoy nice and delightful Instant App experience. If Google Play is not able to find an Instant App APK, then this URL address is being handed over to the system, and system handles it like any other URL addresses. So in most cases, your user will land on a mobile web application. But here, I would love to point out one very important thing. So when you're creating a unique Instant App URL addresses, you have to make sure that they match with your mobile web URL addresses. And so why is that important? So imagine we create a unique Instant App URL address, right, which does not have a matching mobile web URL address. And the user takes a KitKat device. The user clicks on the URL address on the KitKat device that does not support Instant App at this point, right, because it's API level 23 and above. So what happens, the user will land on 404 page no found, right? But so in order to prevent this situation, right, you have to make sure that your Instant App URL addresses match with your mobile web. So if the device support Instant Apps, the user will land with an Instant App experience, right? But if the device is pretty old enough, the API level is not 23 or above, then the user will fall back to your mobile web application. So just please keep it in mind when you will start building your Instant Apps and creating URL addresses. As you can probably guess, the place where we will specify this URL address will be in our manifest file, right? So for each and every activity that serves as an entry point into your application, you have to add intent filters. And you have to specify scheme, host, and path prefix, like any other deep link intent, right, that you would usually create. But then you have to specify also action view, you have to specify category browsable default. So again, it looks like any other deep links that probably most of you already have within your application. So the only thing that is different and something new that Instant App introduced is the attribute order. So, and this attribute is important for cases when you have two activities and both activities will basically respond to the same URL address, right? Instant App URL address. So in order to help the system understand which activity will take the precedence over the other one, you need to specify order attribute. So the activity with the higher order number will get launched over the other one. So there are two approaches how we can build Instant Apps. There is a single feature Instant App, and there is a multi-feature Instant App. And as you can probably guess from the images and the names, single feature Instant App is all about building independent components, a lot of components that basically coexist next to each other. Sorry, that was multi-feature Instant App. But single-feature Instant App is focused around building just one foundation of the application. It will be just one building block for the whole of your application. And I know it probably doesn't tell you much at this point, so let's talk about each and every type in more details and advantages and disadvantages of both types and approaches. So let's start with the easiest approach, which is a single feature instant app. So imagine currently you have your regular installable application, which is one module where most of your code lives, and you decided to build an instant app. So the first thing that you have to do, you have to add a new module or a new package to your project structure, and we call it a base module. Then we have to move all of the code from the app module to the base module. So currently our app module is empty. It doesn't have any resources or source files. It will be just responsible for building our regular installable application. All of the rest of the, most of the code got shifted to the base module. Then we have to provide the dependencies of the app module to the base module. Then we have to add a new module, which is Instant App module. Again, it will be empty. It won't have any resources or source files. And then we have also to provide the dependency of the Instant App module on the base module. So as you can see, right, it's relatively easy to build an Instant App, right? You just have to add extra packages, modules, move all of your code into the base module, and that's it. So Instant App is not about adding extra Java or Kotlin code, right? It's not about adding extra classes, extra programmatic code. It's more about adding packages, right, and shifting some files around. But in order to tell our system how to connect these modules between themselves, right, we have to do some configuration tweaks in the build.gradle file. So let's look at the build.gradle file of each and every module. And let's start with the build.gradle file of the base module. So there is a new plugin, which is Android.feature that has to be specified for the base module. And then in the default config of the Android closure, you have to specify base feature to true. And this tag is very important because we have a lot of modules, right? And our base module is basically the source of truth. So in order to tell your application where most of your stuff lives, most of your logic lives, you have to set this attribute to true. And then as you can see in the dependencies block, you just specify all the library dependencies that you would usually normally specify within the app module. Then in the build.gradle file of the app package or module, we use our old com.android.application plugin. But in the dependencies block, you don't have to duplicate all of those dependencies that we already specified in the base module. In the dependencies block, the only thing you need to do is just to tell that your app module would depend on the base module. Again, it's probably obvious from the chart and diagram that I showed earlier. Build.gradle file of the Instant App module has a plugin com.android.instant and Instant App, and the dependencies block is pretty much the same as the app module. You just have to tell that Instant App depends on the base module. And that's basically it. So that's it as far as configurations is concerned. So once again, I cannot stress it enough that Instant App, single feature Instant App is a very lightweight instant application, and you can probably build it in a little bit less than half a day. So it doesn't require extra code, it's just a little bit of configuration tweaks, a little bit of file shifting, and adding extra packages. But there is an issue with single feature Instant App, and the issue is 4 megabyte size limit. Just because we have one base module, right? Once you reach 4 megabyte size limit within that base module, there is no space for you to grow. Like you cannot add extra features on top of what you built because there are no other modules, right? App and Instant App modules are just responsible for building either regular installable application or instant APKs, right? But you cannot start adding extra code to the base module if it's already 4 megabyte size limit. So single feature Instant App is not a very scalable and I would say maintainable solution if you want to build an Instant App. And multi-feature Instant App is where all the problems are actually solved. So in multi-feature Instant App, instead of moving all of the stuff into the base module, you break all your code and business logic into independent features, independent modules, the so-called feature modules. And I know probably it sounds very vague, right? So feature modules, but what shall I put there? How would I break all of that stuff? So in order to give you vivid examples of how you can build and basically break your business logic into independent features, I will show you a Jet.com application. So once again, Jet.com is an e-commerce company. We sell stuff online. And this is the features that we currently support in our instant application. So there is a PLP or product list page. So it basically shows a list of products that a user is interested in. Then there is a PDP or product detail page, which provides a detailed information about a specific product. There is a cart page, right, or like cart module responsible for the checkout process. And there is an order detail page. An order detail page is responsible for summing up the most recently placed order. So as you can see, right, these are all independent features, right? They have its own responsibility, and so they will be packaged independently into our feature modules. Into the feature modules. But if we think about it further, right, there is still some, so they coexist independently, right, but there is still some duplication, can be some duplication. For example, networking layer, right? If you're using retrofit, you don't want to repeat the retrofit logic within each and every module, right? You don't want to duplicate your services, you don't want to duplicate your interceptors, etc., right? You wanna have all of that duplication in one place, right? Or, for example, analytics managers, right? You don't want to duplicate setting up your analytics managers in each and every module. So there is actually a base module that has to live under feature modules. And base module is the shared repository where most of the stuff that will be pulled into the feature modules will be located. So yeah, again, it's networking layer, analytics, probably some login managers if your users can log in from different places within your application. And then you definitely have to provide the dependency of the feature modules on the base module in order to pull all of that stuff, all of that shared stuff that will be located in the base module. But again, if you look at the diagram, right, we did not really build instant apps. The only thing that we've done so far is we took our one app module, right, like monolithic huge app module, we broke it into independent feature modules, right? We didn't build instant apps yet. But it's pretty easy. We're just adding an instant app module. Again, it's empty, doesn't have any resources source files, and then we just have to provide the dependencies of the instant app module on those feature modules. And that's pretty much it. So multi-feature instant app is more about breaking your business logic into independent coexisting component and then establishing the dependencies, right? And as we've done already for the single feature instant app, right, we have to do similar things with configuration changes in the build.gradle files. So let's look at how we connect code-wise all of those modules. So if we look at the build.gradle file of the base module, the plugin is the same as we used in the single feature instant app. It's com.android.feature. In the default config of the Android closure, we have to specify the attribute base feature to true. And again, it's important because there are a bunch of modules in our application already, right? So this feature, this attribute base feature basically serves as a flag to our application. Oh, it's kind of like pretty dimmed. So it serves as as basically a sign that this is the most important part of the application. This is where other modules can refer in order to pull the information from. Then the build.gradle file. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, it's okay. It's good. They don't need to see my face. It's okay. So build.gradle file. No. Okay. Build.gradle file, I will share the slides, guys. Sorry, it's a little bit later than I expected. So build.gradle file of the base module. Okay, actually, let me see where I am. Okay, so yes, the plugin specified is com.android.feature. In the dependencies block, you can see that we specified that the base module will be the base for our feature module. So you can see the tag feature project, PLP lib, PDP lib, card, and order detail. So because the base module is the man for the rest of the module, so we have to set this. Basically, it's actually. Yeah, it's right over here, highlighted, feature project. Base module is the foundation for all our feature modules. So we reference our feature modules in the base module. this attribute application project is important for the cases when your current application has multiple flavors. So if you want to make sure that these flavors will be propagated to the instant app, you have to tell your instant application in the base module where your app lives. Because if you think about it, right, your application ID for different flavors set in the app module, right? So if you want to propagate those applications IDs for different flavors in the base module, you have to give reference to the app module. Then build.gradle file of the feature module is pretty simple. The plugin is com.android.feature. In the dependencies block, you don't need to do any magic. You just tell your feature module that it would depend on the base module. Again, if you remember, that was clearly shown by the arrow on the diagram. The build.gradle file of the app module would have a reference to all the feature modules, such as PLP, PDP, card, and order detail, plus a reference to the base module. But the plugin is still our old known plugin, which is com.android.application. And the final thing is the build.gradle file of the instant app. It's very similar to the app module. So in the dependencies block, we specify all our features plus a base module. But the plugin is different. It's com.android.instantApp. So I promise that's it as far as the boring part and all of the configuration stuff. But it's important because, you know, sometimes, like when we were building Instant App, I'm like, oh, why certain information is not being pulled from the base module into a feature module? And again, it's just because of some configurations that have not been done properly in the build.gradle files. So we've talked about size constraints in single feature instant app, and we've talked about base module being not more than 4 MB size limit. So what's the case with multi-feature instant app? So in multi-feature instant app, when a user clicks on a URL address, it's not only a feature module that is being downloaded. It's a combination of a base module and feature module that are being downloaded on the device like at the same time, simultaneously, right? So, and if you think about it further, it's actually base module and feature module that have to be 4 MB together, not 4 MB per base module and per feature module. So on the subsequent download, right, when the user clicks on the URL address, base module has been already cached, so it's not being pulled on the device. It's just the feature module that will be pulled to the device. But still, you as a developer don't really know what module your user will pull first, right? Will it be feature 1? Will it be feature 2 or feature 3? So you have to make sure that your largest feature module size plus your base module size together make 4 MB size limit. And there is a really nice and awesome tooling that is provided by the Android Studio, which is APK Analyzer. So it basically will help you to keep track of how large your APKs are. And unfortunately, you have to look at the raw file size, not the download size, which is much less than the raw file size. Anyway, this is what we were given, and this is what we have to work with. So if you don't meet this requirement, 4 MB size limit, and start uploading your instant APKs to Google Play Store, Google will reject you. Google will tell you that certain modules basically go over a 4 MB size limit. So I promised you, right, that I will give you this magic tips how to slim down your application from like 50 MB size limit to the 4 MB size limit. So this is probably the most interesting part of the talk. So the first thing you need to do is please review your dependencies. Please make sure you will list out all the dependencies that you're currently pulling into your application. And I know most of you think, yes, we know, it's obvious. Yes, it's obvious, but the thing that I want to stress out is evaluate each and every dependency. So currently on the official Google Docs, I didn't actually put it because you can find it on the official website. There is a list of all the features that are not being supported in Instant Apps, such as notifications are not being supported. So if your current installable application has notifications, please remove this. Remove the SDK or a library that you're using from your from Instant Apps, because Instant Apps do not support notifications. You don't need that logic. Please make sure you will remove it. Or another good example is in our Jet.com application. So we make money, right, when people buy stuff. We had tons of analytics, tons of marketing and ads libraries, right? And definitely, in most cases, they do the same thing, right, if we're talking about marketing or analytics libraries. So we removed all of them and just left one. And if you use several crash reporting tooling, again, please remove all of them, leave just one. In our case, we used Firebase, Fabric, New Relic, Why? All of them do the same thing. So choose the one you like. Remove the rest of the stuff. Please make sure you use ProGuard. We all know ProGuard can be such a pain, and it's really hard to maintain it, but in the context of Instant Apps, it's actually really huge win. So make sure you will enable ProGuard, and please make sure you will shrink your resources. And again, it's very easy to do this from within the Gradle, right? You just do enable ProGuard and specify the ProGuard file where your ProGuard rules will live, and shrink resources set to true, and that's it. Please make sure that you're using vector drawables. So when we open, before we started to build Instant Apps, we open APK Analyzer within Android Studio, and we started to evaluate what actually takes more space, right, and memory in our application. And guess what? It was JPG, PNG, JPEGs files, right? So make sure that you stop using all of that heavy resources that you currently use, and try to move to vector drawables. If you do need to use a complex image and vector drawables is no go for you, then start using WebPs. So WebP is usually 2x smaller than PNGs. And again, you can easily do that right within Android Studio. Right-click on the resource, and then there will be an option for you to convert a PNG file to WebP. So let's talk about Instant App building process, right? So it's very similar to the process of building a regular APK, right, for your regular installable application, but there is one nuance, right? So instead of having one APK, in Instant Apps, you will have as many APKs as there are feature modules, plus one APK for the base module. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? Because you're not pulling the whole APK on your device. When you click on the URL address, it's a specific feature APK plus a base APK that is being downloaded. So that's why they are all packaged separately when you're building your Instant App. And then all of them are actually being zipped up into a zip bundle, and then you have to upload this zip bundle to the Google Play Store. And that's it as far as Instant App building process is concerned. Let's talk about a very useful Instant App API. So the API is really easy to use, and there are not so many methods, but I would love to pay your attention to the methods that are really important or helped us a lot when we were building Instant Apps. And one of the methods is Instant App, which takes the context. So this method is useful for the cases when you basically need to filter what features you will support in Instant Apps versus what features you will support in your regular installable application. So having this flag, right, or method that basically can detect, are you running in the Instant App context, or is your user running actually in your installable application? Yeah, you can easily use this method. Or another useful case for this method would be, you definitely want to keep your analytics data separate, right, for your installable application and for your Instant App. So when you enable analytics data, make sure that you keep those buckets separately. Otherwise, you won't be able to evaluate whether your Instant App is bringing actually any value to your application. So it's basically a toggle to help you understand, is your user running in Instant App, or is your user running in a regular installable application context? I'm always trying to tell people that please don't be scared to build Instant App, and don't try to build your Instant App in terms of supporting all the features that you currently support in your regular installable application. This is not a goal, right? If your current installable application has 15 features, don't think that you have to support all of those 15 features within your Instant App. No, what I usually try to tell people, try to build 1, 2, maybe 3 features in Instant App, right? And then see whether it actually works for you, right? See whether Instant App brings some value to your company. And then if it does, then start transporting and building, adding extra feature modules and making sure that you will support other features in Instant Apps. So there is a very useful API method, which is show install prompt. And this method basically helps you to tell your users that, okay, my Instant App is not a fully fledged application, right? It's not a fully functional regular application. So once the user starts engaging with the Instant App, right, and you basically attracted users' attention, you can show them in dialogue and tell, oh, if you want to keep using this application, please install it. So it's a really nice tooling to engage users and bring more users into your installable application. Find the most attractive feature in your application, build an Instant App for that, and then start basically bringing your users into installable application if this is your goal. So I think this is the most important and probably my favorite part of the application. So Instant App, as you understand, right, is not a trivial project, right? It's a lot about project reorganization, a lot about the file shifting around, a lot about size slimming down. So we ran into some issues, sometimes big issues, and we wasted a lot of time because in terms of building it, because we were actually early access partners with Google when we were building Instant App. So we were given a very early SDK tooling and API. So we ran into some issues, we fixed them, we kept going, we ran into issues. So I want to share all of the issues that we ran into, and I hope that thus I will able to save your time and you probably won't have to suffer as much as we did. So in one of the errors that we ran into when we were building Instant App is version code 0 is inconsistent with version code 494, right? Okay, and my first intuitive thought would be, where does this 0 coming from, right? So I definitely opened my build.gradle file of the base module, and I want to verify, is my version code 0 or it's 494? And as you can probably guess, it wasn't that simple. It was in the base module of the build.gradle file, we had a version code specified as 494. So I started to think about it, okay, where does this 0 coming from? Because it makes sense, right, that if base module is the foundation of the feature modules, right? Feature modules would pull the version code from the base module, right? It makes sense. Well, it makes sense, but it's not the way it works. So in order to remove this issue, right, where you have to specify version code and version name not only in the build.gradle file of the base module, but in all of the feature modules. And again, it's a bug on Google side. We actually reported it. Google is aware, and hopefully in the next iterations of Instant App, they will fix it. But it's not really a big deal, right? You just have to go to each and every build.gradle file of the feature modules and set version code to the number that you would love to have in order to get rid of this 0, because 0 is the default value that Google puts for you. ProGuard. So we had ProGuard enabled in our regular installable application, and then we enabled it in Instant Apps, and we started to run into such errors as no such method, no such field name error, right? And the issue is in Instant App, just because there are a lot of packages and modules, ProGuard is not smart enough to establish the dependencies. So it actually strips out a lot of stuff that you think your regular installable application would not do. So in order to solve this issue, you just have to add some extra ProGuard rules into your ProGuard file. And again, it's pretty easy. No much really ways to basically think about it. It's like if you run the application, you run into an error where there is no such field or field name or method error, then just that ProGuard stripped out some classes. Just add an extra ProGuard rule to your ProGuard file. Oh, this error, it took so much time of us basically to figure out what's going on. So if you read this error, you can see, right, that there is a widget toolbar with the ID r.id toolbar, right? And for some reason, this ID r.toolbar is not being found. And so definitely our first intuitive thought would be, I have to go to the XML file where I have my toolbar and see whether the ID is r.id.toolbar. Maybe I messed it up and it has a different ID. And again, as you can probably guess, we were able to verify that the ID is r.id.toolbar. So when we started to look deeper into the issue, we realized that the XML file where this resource is defined was located in the base module, but we were using this XML file in a feature module, right? And in Instant Apps, in the manifest file, you will have different package names for each and every feature and each and every feature module and the base module. So what happens is, if the package names are different in the manifest files, Android usually creates different R packages per module. So it's not that you have just to specify the ID that you set in the manifest. You have to specify the full ID. And the full ID is usually prefixed by the package name of the, which you specify in the Android manifest of the module where you define this resource. So once again, if you define a resource in the base module, right, but use it in some other feature modules, you have to specify the full resource ID. And the full resource ID is prefixed by the package name specified in the manifest file. Currently, reusable layouts in feature modules are not supported. So if your application is full of merge include tags, guys, I'm sorry, they don't work in feature modules. They do work in base module, but not in feature modules. And if you expect me to share a good workaround, I won't, because we don't have one. So the thing that we ended up doing is we just removed all merge and include tags, and we had to nest the layouts in the XML files. Again, don't think that this is, oh, this is so bad. It's like, how can we do this? I mean, Google is aware of the issue, so they're fixing it. But at least it actually unblocked us, and we were able to finish Instant App building process, right? And we're able to launch it to production and use it in production. So don't be afraid. Hopefully they will fix it soon. Probably one of my favorite areas and issues was, okay, we're building Instant App, we're running it, everything is nice and sweet. Damn, there is nothing on the screen, right? And you're thinking, why? Everything works, regular installable application works, but there is no content in our instant application. So, and the issue is secure networking. Please make sure that you're using HTTPS, not HTTP. So everything that is secured by TLS protocols, such as HTTPS. And probably would love to finish my presentation with the most interesting and exciting part is the benefits. Because you may think, okay, Instant App is nice, probably, shall I build it not? So I hope that this slide will actually provide really valid reasons why you need to build it and what you will gain. And so one of the first reasons is definitely size reduction. So we were able to slim down our installable application from 17 megabytes to a little bit less than 6 megabytes. I'm talking about installable application. And we went from multi-dex to a single dex. Our Instant App currently per module is a little bit less than 3 megabyte size limit. And believe me, our app is as complex as you may think. So we're using retrofit, RX, dependency injection. So all of that regular tooling, right, that most developers would rely on, we still use, and we were able to slim down our application. So if we were able to slim it down, you definitely will be able to do that as well. So we've done a lot of modularization. So, and this is, again, this is such a really cool thing that we achieved, because every new developer that joins the company doesn't have to sit and look into one app module and try to figure out what does this freaking app do, because everything is actually so well organized and separately packaged. It's such a delight to work with a very well-structured application. We've done a lot of code cleaning up, as you can probably guess. And then new features. As I've mentioned so many times, Instant App is a very fast and performant experience, right? So there are some extra things that you have to include in your application, instant application, in order to make it faster and more performant. And one of them is a smart lock. I'm not sure if you worked with it or not, but smart lock is an API for account managing. So with Smart Lock, your users won't really have to manually log in every time they open Instant App. And again, this makes sense, right? Because you don't want to make your users use this super fast and performant experience as Instant App and basically spend extra minutes, right, in order to log in. So Smart Lock actually takes care of that. Google Payment. If you're taking some payment methods within your application, you will probably get required to use Google Payments. Well, definitely you can use, if the user already has an account and the cards associated with the account, you're free to use that, whatever payment system you're using. At Jet.com, we're using Braintree, but you also have to support Google Payments. So, and these features, right, new features, were not just built for within the Instant App. We also started to support this these features within our installable application, and they become one of the most beloved features among our users. My favorite part, the conversion rate increased by 27%. I know you're like, oh no, this is just a fairy tale. And this is what we thought. We're like 27%, we definitely messed something up. So we definitely did something wrong. So what we actually had to do, we re-enabled all the analytics in order to actually confirm that this is 27% in comparison with mobile web. It's incredible. We didn't expect it. We truly didn't expect it, but this is the results, and we have been in production since May, and we still see the increasing number percentage, which is definitely worth looking at. And another thing is cart size. So we're selling stuff online, right? So our users are so delighted and excited about the new experience that they spend more time and more money in our application. We notice that users buy more stuff. Again, just because the experience is super fast, super frictionless, and super performant, and users just just spend more time than they used to and spend more money than they used to. So that's the end of my presentation. So I would love to thank you so much for your attention and time. If you have some questions, you can definitely reach me at Twitter. If you want to do some live coding, coding, or need some, just help with like how to break the application, some tips, I will be happy to help you with that. Again, just like on like my own will, because I understand it may be scary, but all of the benefits that we've gained are super amazing and excited for us. So I want to share all of that stuff with you. And do we have some time for questions or not? We do have some time for questions. So guys.
So for example, the user installs the cart module and inserts some products into the cart. And after that, after showing the dialog, install the whole application, how do you persist the data that was stored in the cart? Do you persist it on the server side, or is it possible to transfer data from instant app to whole app?
Sure. So the question is, I'm building an Instant App, right? I'm adding some stuff in my cart within the Instant App application. Then I click on the button, install the application. I'm installing a regular application. Is the data transferred between Instant App to the installable application? So, and the answer is, we'll tell you general answer, and then I will tell you what we've done. So the answer is yes, if you're using Android O and above. So if you're using Android O and above, there is a tag that you have to add to your manifest file. It's target sandbox version 2. So all of the data will be automatically transferred if you have this tag enabled in your Android manifest. If we're talking about API levels that are lower than O, currently no. We spoke with Google 3 weeks ago. They're working on that, and they promised that it will be done. But why it works for us and why we were not scared, again, when user is buying stuff, right, usually you have an account, right, because you have to create an account to check out. So if your application is about account management, right, it's not about transferring the data physically, because it's still the same account, right? So once the user lands within the regular installable application, right, you'll still make the same, a new network call, right, and pull all the account information. So for us, it doesn't matter on what API level we are currently. So all the data is being transferred because of the account, system, right, of the application. But if you don't have an account, again, going from API O and above, there is a tag target version sandbox 2. On the lower level APIs, I think just maybe at the end of November, Google will do something. So yeah, I mean, definitely it's a concern. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to have Instant App and not being able to transfer the data to the installable application. Good question. Sure.
How do you navigate between modules? Is it automatic via the intent, or do you have to navigate each time with the URL?
Awesome. So the question is, how do you navigate within your instant application, right? Do you have to navigate like organically, or do you have to navigate through the URL intent? Okay, so I will first answer the question from the perspective of a user, right? If you're a user that, like loading a progress bar, right, that we've seen at the beginning, right? It was just at the first download. The subsequent download of the feature will be seamless. The user will never see a downloading process. So if you're navigating between the features, it's as easy as you are navigating within your regular installable application. There is no difference, like visual difference, nothing. So from a developer perspective, if you're building an Instant App and you're navigating within your application, if there are, for example, let's take one feature modules. If there are 5 activities, right, and they are being used and declared within a feature module, for example, 1, right, then the navigation is being handled like a regular intent, right, where you have to specify this activity and then the activity where you're going, just like start it intent. If you're navigating between 2 feature modules, then you have to use a URL schema of the intents. Yes, so. Which is no problem for us. And yeah, I mean, another question that I usually got is, but can you actually embed the information, right? Sometimes you need to pass the information between the activities. And yeah, we are able to do that so easily, just like a Panda query param, right? Or like another path, for example, because sometimes our PLP list of products, right, is one module, but our details page of the product is another. And in order to launch details, we need the ID of the product, which lives in in the PLP module, list module. So we create a URL intent with the ID appended as a query parameter path. So no issues there. Thank you.
One more question.
You said that there are some limitations in the feature you can use, like notifications are not supported in instant apps. And how about the other features, like location, camera? Are some of them supported?
Awesome. The question is, so there are some features that are not being supported in instant apps. What are the features apart from notification? So I don't remember the whole list from top of my head, and I decided not to provide a slide because, again, you can find it on the internet. But the things that I remember from the top of my head is you cannot access external storage. You can use internal, but not external storage. You cannot use background services. There are some limitations with content providers. Notifications, and yeah, I think that's the main ones that probably can harm your application, but you can find the whole list on Google Docs. Sorry, I decided not to duplicate it because, again, it's available just on the first pages within Google, on the official Google Docs.
Okay, I think we are run out of time. Thank you, Yuliya, for the
Awesome,
presentation.
thank you guys, thank you.